infection rate due to SOP compliance. Customs seize 100 million ringgit worth of drugs. Hello and good afternoon. I'm Carlos and you're watching Update at Noon. Well, as Malaysia records the highest number of COVID-19 recoveries and lowest number of new cases, Health Director General Dr. Nur Hisham Abdullah has described the achievement as the result of continuous efforts of all quarters, including government agencies, frontliners and the rakyat.
Kementerian Kesihatan telah menggunakan maklumat terbaru daripada jumlah kes-kes harian penularan dalam negara di kalangan warga negara dan membandingkannya dengan graf pemodelan COVID-19 seperti yang telah diramal oleh Institut Kesihatan Negara Kementerian Kesihatan Malaysia. Didapati ianya adalah sejajar dengan unjuran kes harian dalam pemodelan tersebut iaitu di kawasan biru. Pihak Kementerian Kesihatan Malaysia ingin mengucapkan tahniah kepada rakyat Malaysia di atas kerjasama dengan pihak kerajaan bagi pencapaian ini dalam usaha kita untuk sama-sama membendung penularan jangkitan COVID-19.
Malaysia yesterday recorded another milestone with 7 new COVID-19 cases, bringing its total to 8,336. Among the 7 new cases, there was no local transmission cases involving Malaysians. Malaysia also recorded the highest number of daily recoveries with 281. Bringing the total recovery recorded in Malaysia to 6,975 or 83.7% of the total number of cases. Well, Senior Minister Dato Sri Ismail Sabri Yaakob has denied allegations that the government has been soft when dealing with Rohingya refugee issues. Well, he stressed that the action taken when dealing with 269 Rohingya refugees who attempted to enter the national waters were recently made on humanitarian basis.
Dan bila mereka memasuki perairan kita, mereka 53 daripada mereka terjun ke laut. Jadi kita tidak mempunyai banyak pilihan. Sama ada kita nak membiarkan mereka mati di laut ataupun kita selamatkan atas dasar kemanusiaan. Saya percaya ramai yang menganggap kenapa kita terlalu baik. Tapi atas dasar kemanusiaan, takkan kita nak lihat anak-anak kecil, orang tua dan sebagainya mati di dalam laut di depan mata kita tanpa kita selamatkan mereka.
Recently, 269 Rohingya refugees had attempted to enter national waters in Langgan area, where they sabotaged their own vessel and had to be saved by the Malaysian Maritime Enforcement Agency (MMEA) personnel who spotted them. Well, meanwhile, Dato Sri Ismail Sabri stressed that the government will not accept Rohingya refugees who illegally enter our borders. Well, the senior minister said the government will discuss with the United Nations High Commissioner for Refugees, UNHCR, and Bangladesh government to send the refugees to other countries.
Kerajaan kita, Kementerian Luar, berbincang dengan pihak UNHCR ni supaya kalau boleh kita hantar mereka ke negara ketiga. Banyak negara-negara dunia yang mempersoalkan tentang bagaimana Malaysia menguruskan Rohingya ni. Ada negara yang kononnya mengatakan kita tidak berperi kemanusiaan dan sebagainya. Jadi kita minta mereka terimalah. Kita minta Kementerian Luar berbincang dengan negara-negara ketiga ini supaya mereka menerima pelarian Rohingya ni daripada Malaysia, dan mereka juga merupakan ahli konvensyen mengenai pelarian 1951. Banyak negara-negara merupakan ahli kepada konvensyen mengenai pelarian. Kenapa nak serahkan kepada kita semata-mata? Mereka patutnya menerima pelarian-pelarian Rohingya ni.
Well, the Royal Malaysian Customs Department has crippled an international drug syndicate when they seized a container in Port Klang, Selangor on 4th June. Its Director General, Dato Abdul Latif Abdul Qadir, said the 100 million ringgit seizure is the biggest seizure made by the department so far this year. Abdul Qadir explained that in the latest bust, customs personnel seized 2.5 tons of goat and camel milk powder that had been mixed with ketamine worth to be estimated about 100 million ringgit.
Hasil siasatan awal mendapati kontena yang berkenaan telah diikrarkan sebagai serbuk susu unta dieksport keluar dari negara kita, negara Malaysia, pada akhir tahun 2019. Kandungan di dalam kontena tersebut dipercayai telah ditukar kepada dagangan yang hampir serupa tetapi diisi dengan campuran serbuk disyaki mengandungi dadah berbahaya jenis ketamin sebelum diimport semula menggunakan kontena yang sama.
Dato' Abdul Latif said this is the first time for a syndicate to try to smuggle the drugs into the country using goat and camel milk powder sachets, as previously the method was to put the drugs into tea sachets and packs. He added that a 55-year-old foreigner and a 40-year-old Malaysian woman had been detained to assist in investigation. The case is investigated under Section 39B of the Dangerous Drugs Act 1952, which provides for the death penalty or life imprisonment and caning upon conviction. Well, police have smashed 2 drug trafficking syndicates with the arrest of 5 people, including 4 Myanmar nationals, and seizure of drugs worth 1.28 million ringgit in Pulau Pinang. Now, State Police Chief Dato' Sahabuddin Abdul Manan said in the first operation, police raided 3 locations in Seberang Perai Tengah, which is on the mainland, and Bayan Baru between 6:45 p.m. on Friday and 8 a.m. on Saturday. Budin said in the first operation, 4 suspects were arrested and over 800,000 ringgit worth of drugs seized. In the second operation, a local man, aged 29, was arrested with drugs worth about 465,000 ringgit. Police also seized cash money, 2 vehicles and jewellery worth about 127,000 ringgit.
Terbaru, Jabatan Siasatan Jenayah Narkotik Pulau Pinang telah melancarkan 2 siri operasi di sekitar Pulau Pinang dan berjaya menumpaskan 2 aktiviti pengedaran dadah. Bagi kes pertama, aktiviti pengedaran dadah didalangi oleh warga tempatan, manakala bagi kes kedua, sindiket pengedaran dadah didalangi oleh warga negara Myanmar.
Briefing reporters yesterday, he said the Myanmar syndicate had been distributing drugs in Pulau Pinang since early this year, and all the suspects have valid passports and work permits. All suspects are remanded for 7 days under Section 39B of the Dangerous Drugs Act 1952. The Attorney General's Chambers has decided to withdraw the corruption and money laundering charges against former Sabah Chief Minister Tan Sri Musa Aman after considering an affidavit filed by former Attorney General Tan Sri Abdul Ghani Patel, who supported drop the accusations. Well, Attorney General Tan Sri Idris Harun in a statement said that Tan Sri Abdul Ghani had defended the decision to not take any action on the former Sabah Chief Minister on 2012. Now, according to Tan Sri Idris, Tan Sri Abdul Ghani made the decision after investigation found that the money involved were political donations. Now, the former Attorney General also stated that the decision was made collectively by high-level individuals, including former Head of Prosecution Division, Dato' Tun Abdul Majid Tun Hamzah, former Chief Commissioner of the MACC, Tan Sri Abu Qasim Muhammad, and former Director of Investigation Division, MACC, Dato' Sri Mustafa Ali. Now, Tan Sri Idris said after studying and perusing the investigation paper from a legal standpoint, the former Attorney General, in exercise of his discretion, decided not to proceed with prosecution, as it was the responsibility of the department to review the whole evidence for this case. Well, he said having studied the whole available evidence and upon discussion with the prosecution and investigation team, he decided to withdraw all the charges against Tan Sri Musa. Now, yesterday, Kuala Lumpur High Court freed Tan Sri Musa, who's aged 69, from 30 corruption and 16 money laundering charges in connection with timber concession contracts in Sabah after the prosecution withdrew all the charges against him and granted the defense's application for the accused to be fully acquitted. Well, a single mother was charged in Kuala Lumpur Sessions Court on 2 counts of making offensive remarks and insulting comments against Yang di-Pertuan Agong Al-Sultan Abdullah Riayatuddin Al-Mustafa Bilal Shah and Prime Minister Tan Sri Muhyiddin Yassin in the Malaysia Flip flip-flop blog. Now, the accused Lai Yuan Ming, 64, pleaded not guilty to the charges read before Judge M.M. Edwin Paramjyothi. Now, on the first count, she was charged with consciously making and initiating offensive and malicious communications against the Prime Minister with intent to annoy others through the Malaysia Flip-Flop blog on 23rd March. The offence, committed under Section 233, subsection 1, subsection A of the Communications and Multimedia Act 1998, carries a maximum fine of 50,000 ringgit or a maximum jail term of 1 year or both, and a further fine of 1,000 ringgit for each day the offence is continued upon conviction. Now, on the second count, she was charged with consciously making statements against the Yang di-Pertuan Agong on the blog on 21st March with the intention of causing fear or panic to the public under Section 505, subsection B of the Penal Code, which carries a maximum jail sentence of 2 years, a fine, or both if convicted. Now, at the same court, businessman Mat Hanif Mat Yunus, 40, claimed trial to the charge of posting offensive comments against the Sultan of Kelantan, Sultan Muhammad V. Mat Hanif was charged under Section 233, subsection 1, subsection A of the Communications and Multimedia Act 1998 for knowingly making and initiating offensive and malicious communications against the Sultan of Kelantan with the intent to harass other people on his Facebook profile at 10:30 p.m. on 13 April. Deputy Public Prosecutor Anwar Atika Abdul Hadi proposed bail at 10,000 ringgit with 130 each for the two persons. The court set July 24th for mention. Well, all schools in the country, especially secondary schools, will be disinfected by the Fire and Rescue Department before school sessions begin. Minister Dato Sri Dr. Ismail Abdul Muttalib said this is to ensure the schools are safe from COVID-19 infection.
Ya, kita akan terus, sinasasi akan teruskan. Bahkan kita dah bincang bagaimana kalau sekolah dibuka. Kita pun dah ada plan kita bersama, kerana kementerian saya, Kementerian Perumahan Kejahatan menjadi beri tanggungjawab untuk penyelaraskan sanitasi dan disinfeksi, maknanya nyah cemar di bangunan-bangunan kerajaan dan sebagainya.
Penjana programs coordinated for effective run. Well, Malaysians can now travel to other states as today marks the beginning of the Recovery Movement Control Order, or RMCO. Now, as announced by the Prime Minister on Sunday, the interstate travel ban has been lifted, along with several other SOP relaxations. So, beginning today, almost all social, education, religious, business and economic activities will be allowed to be reopened in stages under the RMCO. Now, restaurants, eateries and convenience stores can now resume their operation until midnight, subject to the standard operating procedure, including practicing self-discipline and social distancing. Gyms and indoor sports facilities are next to be allowed to resume their operations, as recently announced by Senior Minister Dato Sri Ismail Sabri Yaakob. Now, the RMCO was announced after Malaysia showed a declining trend of COVID-19 infection. Yesterday, there were only 7 cases with no local transmission among Malaysians reported by the Health Ministry. On a related development, effective midnight, Pulau Pinang Police had withdrawn from roadblock duties at 13 locations set up around the state during the Conditional Movement Control Order, or CMCO period. Well, met at the Bertam Toll Plaza just before midnight, Seberang Perai Utara District Police Chief ACP Nur Zaini Muhammad Nur joined his men and army personnel there to man the roadblock for the last time. He also thanked the 800-strong team comprising the police, army, RELA, health officials and other agencies in the district who had been working round the clock since 18 March at the height of the COVID-19 pandemic. Now, there were 6 roadblocks in the district alone at the borders leading into the state. ACP Nur Zaini said the question of police being more relaxed under the RMCO does not arise, as they would have other duties to fulfill. Meanwhile, 19 Royal Malay Regiment Army Commanding Officer Lieutenant Colonel Azmi Abdul Rahim said the Army was prepared to assist the police in the next phase of duty under the RMCO. Well, the government has coordinated all government fund programs under Penjana. The Finance Minister Tengku Dato Sri Zafrul Tengku Abdul Aziz said the coordination is vital to ensure the Prihatin and Penjana plans could be carried out effectively and efficiently.
Penjana pula, kerajaan telah mendengar keluhan PKS yang tidak dapat menikmati beberapa bantuan seperti SRF yang mana peruntukannya cepat dipohon. Maka khas untuk PKS dan perniagaan mikro, Penjana menyediakan peruntukan sebanyak 10.9 bilion ringgit. Ini termasuk inisiatif pembiayaan sektor pelancongan, PKS Peniaga Bumi Putra, kontraktor kecil, industri kreatif dan juga perniagaan mikro.
Tengku Dato Sri Zafrul also said that previously, under Prihatin, the government had allocated 7 billion ringgit for the SME entrepreneurs through local banks and financial institutions. This includes Special Relief Facility or SRF, Agro-Food and Automation Facility, Digitalization Fund and Microcredit Scheme. Still ahead, statue of slave trader removed in London amid anti-racism protests. In the foreign news, now London's mayor announced on Tuesday that more statues of imperialist figures could be removed from Britain's streets after protesters knocked down the monument to a slave trader as the killing of George Floyd in America continued to spark protests and drive change around the world. Now, on the day Floyd was buried in his hometown of Houston, London, Mayor Setkan said he was setting up a commission to ensure the British capital's monuments reflected its diversity. Now, the mayor's office said it will review statues, murals, street art, street names and other memorials and consider which legacies should be celebrated. Well, even before the new commission got underway, officials in East London removed a statue of 18th century merchant and slave owner Robert Milligan from its place in its city's docklands. Milligan's family owned sugar plantations in Jamaica. Local mayor John Biggs said the statue had, quote, become a focus of a lot of anxiety and a lot of anger in the community and that it would be put into storage pending discussion on its future, unquote. Well, Houston said farewell to George Floyd in a rousing hometown funeral on Tuesday with poignant tributes and calls for justice for the 46-year-old African-American whose death touched the world and ignited global protests against police brutality and racism. Politicians, civil rights activists and celebrities joined in sharing memories of the man they called a gentle giant after his golden casket was carried into the sanctuary by 6 pallbearers in masks as a row of police officers stood at attention and saluted. Well, civil rights leader Al Sharpton delivered a fierce eulogy punctuated by the deep chords of a church organ in which he accused President Donald Trump of showing indifference over Floyd's death and sending police a signal of impunity. Acknowledging the presence of the parents of previous victims of police violence, including Eric Garner, Botham Jean and Michael Brown, Sharpton said they know better than anyone else the pain of the Floyd family. Now, though the occasion was solemn, the church echoed with music and words of fond remembrance for a kind and gifted man whose savage death galvanized the movement. Floyd died on 25th May as a white Minneapolis police officer pressed a knee into his neck for almost 9 minutes, and his pleas of "I can't breathe" becoming a rallying cry for protesters. Now, some 500 guests, all masks due to the coronavirus pandemic, filled the church, including actors Channing Tatum, Jamie Foxx, filmmaker Tyler Perry, singer Ne-Yo, and boxing champion Floyd Mayweather, who is reportedly paying all expenses. Well, members of the Washington, D.C. National Guard have tested positive for coronavirus in the wake of their deployment during recent protests in the U.S. Capitol. Now, D.C. National Guard spokeswoman Lieutenant Colonel Brooke Davis on Tuesday said they could not reveal the number of positive tests due to operational security. While she said they came after the 1,700 members were demobilized following the service during the protest that erupted in front of the White House and elsewhere over the killing of African-American George Floyd by a Minneapolis police officer. Now, the Guard were mobilized by the mayor and then the federal government on 1st June to help keep order after protests turned into rioting and looting. Colonel Davis said they were screened for COVID-19 before and after deployment. While many protesters wore masks during the unrest, not all did, and many law enforcement and Guard personnel also went without. National Guard personnel are social distancing, this is according to Colonel Davis, and use of PPE measures remain in place where practical throughout the deployment. Well, COVID-19 has claimed almost 112,000 lives in the United States since it spread from China and Europe earlier this year. The country has registered some 2 million cases from a worldwide total of 7.2 million. Peru emerged as a global COVID-19 hotspot on Tuesday as the health ministry registered more than 200,000 cases, ranking the South American country as the 8th highest in the world by number of infections. The death toll rose to 5,738, and the total number of infections climbed to 203,736, an increase of more than 4,000 cases from the previous day. Now, the ministry said 167 people had died from COVID-19 in the past 24 hours, and the number of infections in the country is the second highest in Latin America after Brazil and 8th globally. Now, the economy, one of the region's highest performing until February, has largely ground to a halt during a 12-week lockdown ordered by President Martin Vizcarra. Now, textile unions have demanded the government begin opening up the industry so production and exports can resume. Peru's GDP contracted by 3.4% in the first quarter of 2020. The country's first case was detected on 6 March, and Vizcarra declared a compulsory national confinement 10 days later, shuttering borders and imposing nighttime curfews. Meanwhile, surfers and bathers were allowed back on Peru's beaches despite the national lockdown remaining in place, with beaches to reopen gradually under certain restrictions. Several thousand demonstrators marched in Hong Kong on Tuesday evening, defying authorities a year after huge pro-democracy protests erupted as the movement struggles in the face of arrests, coronavirus bans on crowds, and a looming national security law. Now, 7 months of massive and often violent rallies kicked off on 9 June last year when as many as 1 million people took to the streets to oppose a bill allowing extraditions to mainland China. Well, as city leaders dug in, battles between police and protesters became routine, leaving the financial hub's reputation for stability in tatters and swaths of the population in open revolt against Beijing's rule. Well, a year later, protesters are on the back foot, with Beijing planning to impose a sweeping law banning subversion, secession, terrorism, and foreign interference. Antivirus measures also forbid more than 8 people gathering in public. Defiant crowds, a few thousand strong, gathered on Tuesday evening in the city's upmarket central district to march and chant slogans. Riot police were quick to charge and fire pepper spray to disperse the crowds in a series of small cat-and-mouse confrontations, with at least 25 arrests made throughout the evening. Earlier Tuesday, organizers of last year's huge rallies called on the government to lift legitimate protest restrictions on a city now largely free of coronavirus infections. But city leader Carrie Lam, an unpopular pro-Beijing appointee, said the protests must end. Coming up in sports, MAM hopes motorsport events can resume by September. Well, the Motorsports Association of Malaysia, MEM, hopes to get the government's green light for its proposal on the Special Standard Operating Procedures, or SOPs, to rev up the sport. Now, MEM President Tan Sri Moghzani Mahathir said it had submitted the SOP proposals to the government through the Youth and Sports Ministry to enable national-level competitive races to be held soon after the sport hit rock bottom a month ago following the implementation of the Movement Control Order, or MCO, on 18th March to curb the spread of COVID-19. He said the SOP for sports and recreational activities, which among others encourages social distancing and limits the number of participants to just 10 at any one time, was not suitable for racing activities, as it often included team members, paramedics, marshals, engineers and racers. He pointed out that it was not possible for mechanics and engineers to adhere to the minimum of 1.5 meter distance rule while preparing the riders and machines during races.
Morning there was a trial run. So we have motorcycle riders at the track. We have come up with our own SOP. So we want to see whether the SOP is practical and workable or not. So we will have this. We will try and see whether people will follow, and then see what needs to be done. I'm confident that we can come up with an SOP that's workable, because my argument is we are an open air outdoor facility, very wide spaces. We have very designated areas where people can be in and work. We can limit it to 10 people.
Speaking at a virtual press conference yesterday, Tan Sri Moghzani expressed confidence that MEM would be able to get permission to organise races soon. It is learned that MEM had submitted its third proposal last week, which included written and video-recorded SOP guidance. Meanwhile, on the topic of MotoGP, he said that according to reports in Europe, MotoGP rights holder Dorna Sports wanted the Malaysian GP scheduled for November to be held with spectators. However, the government still restricts mass gatherings. MEM faces an estimated 457,000 ringgit losses in revenue due to the cancellation and postponement of motorsports events, while race officials, including marshals, stewards and track inspectors, are expected to lose about 1.7 million ringgit in income after all the track activities were halted due to the pandemic. Well, Saarbrücken's unprecedented German Cup run came to an end at the semi-finals on Tuesday after a 3-0 defeat at the hands of Bundesliga outfit Bayer Leverkusen. Now, the fourth-tier side, whose last competitive and competition match was in March, beat top-flight clubs Cologne and Fortuna Düsseldorf on their way to becoming the first team from that level to reach the last four of the Cup. Side were quickly to get two ahead thanks to goals from Moussa Diaby and Lucas Alario within the first 20 minutes. Both were set up by Karim Demirbay, whose pass for Diaby opener in particular highlighted the gulf in class between the two teams. The hosts never recovered from those early blows, and just before the hour mark, Leverkusen struck a third with Demirbay once again the man to lay on their decisive pass for Belarabi to smash home. The defeat would have been heavier had Paulinho not missed several good chances to beat Saarbrücken's impressive goalkeeper Daniel Batz, who saved 5 penalties in his team's quarter-final win over Düsseldorf and made some good stops on Tuesday. Leverkusen will now take on either Bayern Munich or Eintracht Frankfurt, who face off at the Allianz Arena on Wednesday in the final on 4th July.
Things aren't looking good for Saarbrücken.
And that's it from us this afternoon. In our top story, low infection rate due to SOP compliance. Now, News on 2 comes on at 7 this evening. I'm Amin Carlos. Thanks for watching and a very good afternoon.